At 1:48 in the morning on August 13th, 2018, a pregnant woman walked up to her own front door in Frederick, Colorado and stepped inside. The house camera over the door recorded it. Shannon Watts was 34 years old and about 15 weeks pregnant with a son, home from a business trip, tired, alive. She had hours left. Inside, her husband was already awake, already decided. By the next morning, Shannon and both of their little girls would be gone, and Chris Watts would be standing on a television camera begging a country to help him find the family he had just buried. Investigators would spend days asking the obvious question: why? The answer was not jealousy, and it was not rage. It was a man who had run the numbers on his own life and decided he no longer wanted to pay for it. On the morning of August 13th, the Watts family was the American dream: a 5-bedroom house in Frederick, Colorado, the smiling daughters in the family photos, a devoted husband, and a wife named Shannon who had built a brand out of all of it. She sold a multi-level marketing supplement called Level Thrive, and her social media was saturated with it. The big house, the vacations, the smiling photographs, a successful career from home posted live almost every day. The feed was proof, the feed was the life, and the feed was a lie the bank account could not afford. 3 years earlier, in June of 2015, Christopher and Shannon Watts filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the District of Colorado. The court documents are the hardest facts in this entire case. Total liabilities of $448,820. More than $70,000 of that was unsecured debt on top of a mortgage of roughly $378,000. $44,569 in credit card charges in a single year. Sears, Macy's, Nordstrom, Toys R Us. And underneath the debt, the accounts that funded the dream: 2 savings accounts holding $3.51 and $6, a checking account with a little over $860. In the asset schedule, they listed the family dog as a $5 asset. The house told the same story: about $400,000 for a newly built home at 2825 Saratoga Trail. The mortgage alone was roughly 9 times what they earned. Because the income did not hold in 2013, the household reported $147,000. By 2014, $90,000. By 2015, $40,491. The mortgage was $378,000 against an income of $40,000. A federal judge discharged most of the debt by August of 2015. The numbers got buried. The life that produced them did not change. They kept the house, they kept the dream, they kept posting it. This is the part that mattered. By the summer of 2018, Chris Watts wanted a different life. In early June, he met a coworker at Anadarko Petroleum named Nicole Kessinger. Shortly after, a promotion moved him into the office. Within weeks, they were seeing each other through most of July. They reportedly exchanged "I love yous." He hid it the way a man hides a second life. He used a disguised app on his phone called Secret Calculator to bury her messages and her photographs, and while he was building a fresh start, the cost of the old one was rising. Shannon was about 15 weeks pregnant with a third child, a son. The Windham Hill Master Association was suing the family over more than $1,500 in unpaid fees, and Shannon could feel the marriage failing. She had quietly asked a lawyer about custody. The marriage was ending. The divorce would split a household with negative net worth and put child support on 3 children. Everything he had built was about to cost him more than he could pay. On the night of August 12th, Shannon was flying home from a Lavelle business trip in Arizona. At about 1:48 in the morning on August 13th, 2018, a friend named Nicole Atkinson dropped her at the house. The family's own front door camera recorded her walking inside. It was the last time she was seen alive. Hours later, in their bed, Chris Watts strangled her. In his confession, her documented words were that he would never see the kids again. Bella, the 4-year-old, walked in. He told her, "Mommy don't feel good." Then he wrapped his wife's body, carried it to his work truck, and laid it on the floor of the back seat. He drove the 2 living girls about 40 miles to the Cervi 319 oil site where he worked, their mother's body beneath their feet. At the site, the girls asked what was wrong with Mommy. Celeste, 3 years old, was killed first, smothered in the truck while her sister watched. Cece was first, in his own words, then Bella, the 4-year-old. She asked, "Is the same thing going to happen to me as Cece?" She fought. The coroner found she bit her own tongue, signs of a struggle. Her last words were, "Daddy, no." The coroner ruled both girls died of asphyxiation by smothering. He placed each daughter in a separate crude oil tank, and only after both girls were in the tanks did he bury Shannon last, in a shallow grave nearby. He then drove to a convenience store and bought breakfast. What he did next is the reason the country remembers his face. On August 14th, before any arrest, Chris Watts stood outside his home and gave interviews to local television pleading for the family he had already buried. He said, "Shannon, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, please come back." He performed the grief of a man who knew exactly where they were. The story did not survive contact with the evidence. On August 15th, he agreed to a polygraph administered by a state agent named Tammy Lee. The threshold for deception was -4. He scored -18. He confessed first to his father, and his first confession was itself a lie. He claimed Shannon had strangled the girls and that he killed her in a rage. But the forensics did not match. The girls were smothered, not strangled. Bella had fought, and the two girls had been driven out to that oil field alive, their car seats left behind in their mother's car. His first story could not survive the evidence. The day after he confessed, all 3 bodies were recovered in the places he had marked for investigators. On November 6, 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to 9 felonies, a deal that took the death penalty off the table at the family's own request. On November 19th, he was sentenced. Frank Zusek, Shannon's father, faced him in court. "You heartless monster," he said. "I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. Prison is too good for you. May God have mercy on your soul." Sandra Zusek, her mother, told the courtroom that she had no idea who gave them the right to take their lives. Judge Marcelo Kopko handed down 5 life terms without parole, plus 48 years, plus 36. "This is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I've handled out of the thousands of cases I've seen," the judge said. Here's where the honesty matters. This was not a man who killed for a pile of cash. His own confession is about the affair and a fresh start, not money. The prosecution's stated motive was a fresh start with Kessinger. There was no payout to Chase. A $450,000 life insurance policy existed through his employer, but under Colorado's Slayer statute, a killer cannot profit, and he could never collect a cent of it. The debt had been largely discharged 3 years before. Kessinger never asked for any of it and went to the police herself. By every clean measure, the named motive was the woman, not the wealth. And yet, the person closest to him in his final months told investigators what she saw. Nicole Kessinger said money is the biggest catalyst for this event happening, that he was struggling with a 3rd child coming, and that Shannon would not face the trouble. Because the cost he wanted erased was never just one bank account. It was the whole weight of the old life. The bankruptcy, the $400,000 house he could not afford, the mortgage 9 times his income, the divorce coming, the child support coming, the marriage, the 3 children who came with all of it. He did not want more. He wanted lighter. He wanted cheaper. He wanted out. In November of 2019, a judge ordered him to pay Shannon's family $6 million in a wrongful death judgment. $1 million for each life, $3 million for their pain, growing at 8% every year forever. He has nothing, so the number is symbolic. It exists for one purpose: to make certain that the man who tried to erase the cost of his old life can never profit from it. He wanted a lighter life, a cheaper life, a life without them in it, and the line between the family man begging them to come home on camera and the man who already knew where he had buried his children was erased completely by greed.